Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. Very excited to talk to a gentleman today who, it's funny, I was going to make a joke that he disproves the theory that everybody shows up to training camp in the best shape of their lives, because he has just come from what apparently was a scintillating workout. Beat reporter for The Athletic, Fred Katz. How many minutes of this podcast will you be sweating for? About 20, 30?
I mean, the average podcast, I'm sweating for about 40. So this one, I'm going to say it could be longer.
I'm sweating too. We're both sweating. I'm sweating because I hustled home from picking up my youngest from daycare, and felt awful about that I was leaving you hanging because we're starting this a little bit delayed. But now I don't feel bad because you got in a workout, so it's fine.
It's fine. And by a workout, if you just mean a long walk in the 80-degree weather, which turned my face red, then yeah. I mean, look, SNY tweeted out a video of a Josh Hart media availability yesterday. And the first Twitter reply was, did Fred gain weight over the summer? So, got to go for some long walks at least. It's showing right in the first day of training camp.
I'm not going to, well, I can't say it was the reason I did this, but I periodically do kick myself in the ass in terms of staying in shape. So I got up this morning at 5:30 and went for a 4-mile run. And then I came back just as the sun was coming up. So I went up on my building's roof and did some additional exercises. I was a go-getter this morning. I don't know why I had to mention that.
Lovely. I always forget there's a video element to this, and I'm like, I should be presentable.
You're very presentable.
But
I'm the one who's not presentable. I haven't shaved in several days. All right.
That's because I don't have razors in the woods,
They have axes though.
You'll play the part better. Like, nobody wants to see you clean shaven. Can't even imagine you clean shaven. I think it would make me uncomfortable.
No, not clean shaven, but I do trim the beard. But I usually do it in conjunction with the haircut. All right, we're going to move on to talking about the basketball team that is in training camp where you are. Actually, no, sorry. One other nonsense question. It's not quite a nonsense question, but so it's funny. I think you compared in one of the ways that we communicate Charleston to Savannah, right? As like a bigger, yeah. So I've been Savannah. I've never been to Charleston. So give me the vibe check on Charleston. Like, what's it like? Give me what?
I'm a fan. Yeah, it's super charming. Yeah, I mean, when I compared it to Savannah, Georgia, it's like a similar sort of vibe, and it's much bigger. So it's like super charming. The architecture is really charming. The streets are really nice to walk around. Like, I'm into it. Good vibes on the water, good weather, good food. I'm into it. Should I do this? Should I do this podcast like I'm like a NBA player who just came out of one of Thibs's 18-minute straight second halves? Just here. It's
funny. We just mentioned Melo before. That? Melo had the thing where he would he did the towel around the head, right? And then with the thing zipped up. Yeah.
Well, when Melo was in OKC, he didn't use team towels when he was on the bench.
No,
he used his own number 7 Melo towel when he was on the bench.
That's incredible.
I noticed it, and I always wanted to do a story on it, and it was difficult for me to get him one-on-one because Melo was he had gotten to the point in his career. Melo was actually great to cover, but he'd gotten to the point of his career where he just wasn't he was going to talk to you and chill with you. And then when it was time to do media, he was like, nah. And so I kind of noticed it at the end of the year. And then they made the playoffs. It's hard to get that kind of stuff in the playoffs. So I never got to do the story, but I always wanted to do the story on Melo's number 7 towel.
That's good. Yeah. You have to sneak that into your eventual Russ book as an addendum or something.
Russ was there.
Maybe Russ had something to do with the towels. Who knows? What were we talking about? Oh, yeah. Training camp in Charleston, South Carolina, where you presently are. Should fans read anything to the fact that they are getting out of town for this training camp? Do you have any thoughts on it?
No. I mean, it's not the first time the Knicks organization has gone to Charleston.
Yeah, obviously.
To do training camp. They like it down here as they used to do it in the 90s. Even they would come down to Charleston. Yeah. So they, I think it's just that like it's a nice place to be. It's good weather. Thibs said the other day he thinks it's good for team bonding to get on the road. Part of the reason why they hadn't done it the last few years was just kind of like COVID sort of stuff, making things logistically difficult. I think Thibs generally likes to go away for training camp, and a lot of teams will do it. I don't think half the league does it, but I don't know, maybe 10 teams are on the road for training camp. So I think, I mean, there's nothing to read into. I think it's just they like doing it and kind of gets rid of distractions and gets them ready to go. And it's kind of like it's also can be like a little vacation, like they're here, they're checking out restaurants, like it makes them feel kind of isolated, like they're still kind of away. It's a nice transition.
Is there standard NBA beat writer protocol for if you see a team or like several players from a team out, or does it change by team or even like by player?
Oh, it changes by player.
Oh, it changes by player.
So when I was in OKC, this is a great one. And I don't think he'll care that I'm telling this story. So actually, I'm certain he won't care that I'm telling this story. So when I was in OKC, OKC is small. Like there's one club that you go to, and maybe there's two, and there's one bar that you go to.
No,
and that's
stop it.
Yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, there isn't literally only one bar, but like at the time, I'm single. I'm single, and it's like you're gonna go out downtown on a Friday night, and you want to go have a fun time with a couple of friends. Like, you go to either one bar or like one club, and maybe a second club is going to be decent on a decent night. And that's kind of it. So when I would go out on Friday, Saturday nights, I would see players all the time because they only really got two places to pick from if they want to go out. And
flip a coin, you might.
And there were some players who I'd see out, and they turn away immediately. There's some players who you see out, you kind of just do the head nod, and I'm like, because I always interpret like when they see me out. First of all, they don't know if I'm gonna like write like, oh, this guy was out the night before a game, and then rip him, which I don't do that. I think that's corny. And secondly, I just feel like there's kind of like a same element of like if you're out and you may see like your teacher out, like when I was 18, I was at a bar and I saw a teacher at this bar. It was 19. It was my freshman year of college. I saw a teacher at this bar and I was horrified, and I was like totally fine. Like, but I was horrified, and so I always feel like I give the players the benefit of the doubt if they feel that way. However,
that's because you're a good guy.
However, there are some guys who are completely and utterly shameless. And the one who comes to mind for me is Andre Robertson.
Oh, yes. That's great.
Have I told this story on this podcast or told it to you individually?
If you're not, I don't remember if you've done either of those things. So please tell away.
So I go to this club with my buddy Jeremy, and we're trying to get a drink at the bar, and it's just like two dudes trying to get a drink at the bar. So obviously we're unable to get a drink at the bar, and we're waiting. And then a waitress comes over and says, "Excuse me, I believe these 4 Patron shots are for you." I said, "We didn't order any Patron shots. I think you brought it to the wrong person." And she says, "Oh no, that gentleman at the table in the back had them sent over to you." And we look at the table in the back, and it's Andre Robertson there, standing up and eagerly waving with the biggest smile on his face. And we pick up the Patron shots and we give a little toast from across the room. And that's it. And my favorite part of that story is not that some players see the beat writer and just like turn away when Andre was sending us shots. It was that Andre sent us 2 shots per person.
Per person. That's the best. That was not lost on me as you were telling the story.
Yeah. So that was so, it just depends on the individual.
And my guess is that we've already cast enough aspersions on Oklahoma City. But my guess is Patron was probably the tippity top shelf tequila that they had at that establishment. So
I couldn't tell you. I would imagine that is plausible.
Now that we're done crapping on America's,
but I don't remember.
Okay, we should go back together and check it out. Maybe
Andre one time after media availability, Andre was great with reporters. He was great with reporters. He was always a great interview, always willing, never turned down an interview, thoughtful, smart dude, great sense of humor. And he was great to cover. And there was only one time where he was a legitimately bad interview, was like kind of rude to us. It was the last day before the All-Star break. And it was after the game and they had won. And Eric Horn, who was covering Oklahoma, was covering the Thunder for the Oklahoman at the time. Eric and I wanted to talk to Andre after the game. So we kind of pulled him to the side. And Andre just like shrugs his shoulders and sheepishly walks over to us. And we were like, that's weird. And we started asking Andre some questions. And Andre just gives one word answers. Every time, one word answer. He's looking down. He's antsy. After like a minute, we're both just like, you know what, man, you can go. And we were like, something must have happened with him or whatever. We say, you know what, man, you can go. And Andre just pumps his fist and goes, Cabo, baby, and runs out of the locker room.
I mean, listen, I don't blame. I mean, I'm assuming he had a flight at his particular time. Unless, I don't know, Andre Robertson was not at private jet level salary, I don't think, at least.
It might have been. I mean, you know.
Well, yeah, I have no concept of what a private jet costs, so who the hell
I don't know. Andre was on a $30 million contract. Yeah, Andrew just messaged the general chat. So ... the Knicks ? No.
Okay.
I think now is when we get into Isaiah Stewart talk.
Hey, listen, man, I don't think I was going to touch on Monty Williams' comments today about his backup bigs. No, I'm just doing that to scare Andrew. Here, this is our transit. This is exceptional podcasting here. How's this for a transition? Which Knick do you think would be most likely to send you over 4 shots of Patron, you and a buddy 4 shots of Patron if they saw you out?
James Dolan.
That's the correct answer. So you just, I like how Andrew just changed your name. So you just wrote about the Knicks, the team that we're allegedly here to podcast about. Specifically, you wrote about their offense, which I thought was a great kind of like first article of training camp piece to write, because we talk about all sorts of things. And I think it's weird because like, we've all just kind of accepted the fact that this was it's staggering to say the 3rd best offense in the league last year against all odds, because as you talk about in the piece, I'm just going to kind of leave it open for you to take it anywhere you want. But as you mentioned a few times in the piece, this was not a team that could hit shots, and their fact they could not hit shots ultimately came back to bite them in the ass in the playoffs. But like, I do think it is a really, really good thing to kind of as a jumping off point, because their defense was not good last year. And I'm not sure we have any reason to think that their defense is going to get that much better. So not to start off on a down note, but like if they can't replicate the offense or something close to it, well then, you know, we might be talking about a team that might, you know, fall short of expectations. So take it away. What are your thoughts there?
I left the article very open-ended. I didn't really have a conclusion on, okay, so the Knicks will be top 3 again, or the Knicks won't be quite as good, but they'll still be really good, or they're about to fall off because they own the shooting or whatever. Number one, because I don't think it's for me to say, and I'm not an opinion columnist. And number 2, because I don't really know. Like, I think the question is interesting enough. Like, their offense was so good last year in the regular season, and there are so many reasons why it might not be that level. You know, if Julius Randle isn't all NBA level, that's going to be something. If teams realize, okay, they kind of caught people by surprise last year, and now Jalen Brunson's not going to do that. Or now, okay, we watched what even the Cavs did against the Knicks offense during that first round series. And we watched what Miami did against them in that second round series. And that's giving us a better understanding of how to guard this offense that was really good. Maybe somebody figures out some kind of way to make Mitchell Robinson a little less devastating on the boards. Maybe the fact that they have a bunch of playmakers means other guys handling the ball a little bit more, means more turnovers than they had last year. Like, there are a million reasons why the offense might not be historically great, honestly, like it was last year. However, like, Quentin Grimes is 23. He should get better. RJ Barrett's 23. Like, Immanuel Quickley is 24.
Can we stay on Quickley for a sec?
Getting worse.
You reported something on Quickley, specifically in your last column, which I'll leave it to you to say right now, about what the team internally maybe thinks about him this year.
Yeah. No, there's optimism about the season that he's about to have, I think. I don't think people were discouraged about the playoffs that he had last year. I've spoken about it with people, and it basically gets the same sort of reaction every time, which is he's inexperienced. He was 23 years old. Young players can struggle in the playoffs, and the experience is going to work. I had somebody tell me they would be shocked if Quickley didn't come back a better player this year than he was last year. So I don't see why. I don't think that's a crazy way to think. Like, dude's 24 years old, good work ethic, cares about the right things. So I don't see why he is going to fall off. He's had pretty steady progression in terms of his intelligence and the way that he plays the game. His defense got better from year 1 to year 2 to year 3. Yep. His patience in the pick and roll got better from year 1 to year 2 to year 3. That's a good trajectory. I don't see why we should be saying last year was just the ceiling on what he can possibly be. And while I was, I don't want to say disappointed, that makes me sound like a father, but I was surprised by his playoffs. I thought that he was going to be good for them in the playoffs, even though small guards can struggle there. I thought he was going to be good for them, and he struggled. And even with that being the case, it doesn't necessarily have to affect your opinion of the player long term. That can just be what happened in the playoffs, and that was it.
I want to get back to Quickley in a moment, but just on the shooting thing before we move on from that, like, the only player who you say, well, that's definitely going to come down in terms of their percentage from last year from three specifically, is Josh Hart. But then if you balance that out with the fact that this team also had Cam Reddish and Evan Fournier in the rotation for, Cam was probably an actual rotation player, probably a little bit less than the 20 games that he played. And Fournier was obviously less than the 27 he played because he got in garbage time. But like, they still played a lot of minutes in the early season for the Knicks last year. Oh, how could I forget about Derrick Rose, who got into 27 games? Those guys shot 30, 30, and 30. All of them shot 30% from three. And that those were all rotation players at one point in time. So I feel like maybe those three kind of balance out Hart shooting an obscene 51% from two, and obviously he's not going to shoot that again. And then, like everybody else, like you just mentioned, Quickley shot 37% from three. I don't think it's crazy to think Quickley could get up to, I don't know, can he get up to 39%, 40% from three? I don't think that's nuts. I want to talk about Grimes also in a second. He was at 38.6%. I think that could go up. And then the guy you mentioned explicitly in the piece today, who made some good comments on the record, I guess it was yesterday as we're recording this, Julius Randle only shot 34.3%. So, like, I don't know. Of those three guys I just mentioned, and we should also mention RJ Barrett shot 31% from three. Of those four, Barrett, Randle, Quickley, and Grimes, who do you like? Well, you just said they have high hopes for Quickley. Do you think that they expect Randle and RJ specifically, because those are the two fundamental core pieces, right, that make their offense easy to guard, that nobody respects? Do you think they think either of those guys are going to get better?
I think with Julius, I think they think the 3-point shooting kind of is what it is. Because, yeah, he's 34%, but he did it on 8+ attempts a game.
And a lot of pull-ups.
And a lot of pull-ups. I mean, he was taking like over 3. I think he took over 3 pull-ups a game last year.
Sounds about right.
He took like 5 catch and shoots and about 3.5 pull-ups a game. I mean, it's a lot.
He was like 10th or 12th or whatever it was in threes per game attempted. So it was insane.
Yeah. I mean, so when you're going to take more threes, the percentage is going to be a little bit less. Could he shoot 36, 37 and take 6 a game?
Sure.
Probably. The Knicks don't want that though. They want him taking 8 a game. They know like that's a big Thibs thing. Like he wants Randle taking as many threes as possible. I'm telling you, there is no time that Julius Randle could come away. There's no number of threes that Julius Randle could come away with in a game that Thibs would say that's too many. Now there might be times when he goes and he looks at the film and he sees, oh, you had a driving lane, or there was a guy wide open under the basket. That was a bad shot. And you were double teamed or whatever. That's different. Yeah. There's no time that Thibs is going to look at the box score and see 14 threes for Julius Randle and think anything other than good. I'm glad he's chucking those things up. He knows how important that is for the offense. He talks about it all the time. And I know internally he talks about it all the time too. That's huge for him. I don't really expect much different as a 3-point shooter from Randle. RJ, we just kind of have to wait and see. Personally, out of those 4, if I had
Fred's opinion now, folks, it's Fred's opinion.
This is my opinion. If I had to bet on which one was going to improve his 3-point percentage this year, I would probably do the not advisable thing and choose the guy who shot the highest percentage last year.
Grimes.
I think I would choose Grimes. I'm just waiting for Grimes to shoot 40 from 3. I'm just waiting on it. At some point during this preseason, I'm going to write a Grimes story. It's like that dude has 40% form. He has a 40% release. He has totally repeatable fundamentals. I'm just waiting. He gets the types of looks that'll get him 40. Like he just really is getting catch and shoot looks, on the move looks. Worked out with JJ Redick.
I was about to say you were in the scrum when he was talking about working out with JJ.
Yeah, he actually on that. Yeah, sure. He actually, I spoke to him for a second after the scrum. He told me that like he hit up JJ on his own because he thinks that JJ is one of the 5 best shooters of all time. And specifically what he said was it wasn't really about the shooting. And I thought this was like a really smart point by him. He said it wasn't about the shooting even. It was really about the conditioning because Redick is notoriously notoriously unbelievably conditioned. He was famous for pregame, what he would do. And I asked Quentin about this when he mentioned the conditioning. Redick was famous for pregame. Like his people show up early and they watch Stephen Curry's pregame routine, and that's all fine and good. I used to like showing up early and watching JJ Redick's when I was covering a team that was playing against JJ Redick's.
That's
because
cool.
Redick pregame does his pregame routine like full on game speed. And if you remember how he played, he was just constantly running those tracking stats that show how many miles you're running in a game. Like he was running the most miles on offense per 36 minutes of anyone in the league by far. Like he is constantly on the move, and he would exhaust defenses, just totally and completely exhaust them. And so I thought it was really interesting that Quentin said that it was as much about the conditioning, why he wanted to work with Redick, as it was the shooting. And he spoke super highly of him. He said they worked on a lot of off-ball stuff, a lot of running around pin down stuff, a lot of footwork stuff, shots that he said he was going to be working on. I thought it was really interesting. And I'm just waiting on it, man. Like he's got the fundamentals. I'm just waiting on that 40. Dude's a 40% 3-point shooter.
It's impossible for him not to be. And I think I agree with you. It's it's funny. You talk about him seeking out JJ. He also, correct me if I'm wrong, has spent a lot of time with Penny Hardaway the last couple of years, right? Like,
and again this summer as well.
And again this summer, he it's probably trite to say like, oh, he does all the right things. This dude really seems like he is doing like everything possible to put himself to be in the best position possible to be a really good NBA player and let's say maximize his talent. I feel like he is the default answer when I talk to other fans, either through whatever means that like, who's the guy that's going to break out this year? And my response always is like, where is the usage going to come from? And then I think to myself, well, again, we don't have to spend too long on the minutes log jam because I don't know what there is to say about it, but like, you've done the math, I've done the math, we've all done the math. Like there are going to be players who are good players that we really like, who are going to be sitting and looking at the box score after the game. It's like, oh, that guy played 22 minutes tonight. Like there's a part of me
less than that.
Or maybe less.
We're going to look at it and be like, we're going to look at it and be like, wow, that dude's playing 15 minutes. And
there is a part of me over the summer that wondered, even as I'm so high on Quentin Grimes, I could not be higher on Quentin Grimes. Like, I'm wondering to myself, could it be Grimes? Like they just signed DiVincenzo, like Thibs loves Hart. We just talked about Immanuel Quickley. RJ is RJ. And it's like by default, I'm almost wondering, and I hope not. And I'm wondering, can he play himself out of potentially being that guy? And I think he can, but I don't know.
I think he can too. However, I think when you list players Thibs loves, Grimes on the list. Thibs loves Grimes. Thibs loves Grimes. Thibs has always loved Grimes. So I don't know how it's going to go. I'm confident that Grimes is going to go in as the starter. Thibs all but said that.
I should have noted you Monday. Reported that.
Yeah. I reported that before, and Thibs basically all but said that on media day, and that's the way it should be. I mean,
it is absolutely.
That starting lineup was really good last year. They were +7 per 100 possessions. You say, where's the usage going to come from for him to break out?
Yeah.
I will.
You want to say something?
Yeah, I will disagree with your premise.
Please.
Does the usage need to change all that much for him to break out? He took 6 threes a game last year. If he plays the same amount of time as he did last year, 30 minutes a game, or around that number,
which might be hard, but continue.
Might be hard. However, if they use him if he becomes the guy for them on the perimeter,
sure,
he'll play that many. Like whoever is the guy on the perimeter,
and both ends,
that's the guy who's going to play. Yes,
guarding the opposing team's primary initiator, assuming they're on the smaller side, and then okay.
Look, when we talk about the playing time crunch, really what we're talking about is Quickley, Grimes, DiVincenzo, Hart, RJ.
Yes, those are the 5. Yes,
because we know Hartenstein and Mitch are playing 48 minutes at center. We know Randall is going to play 35-ish minutes, and we know Brunson's going to play 35-ish minutes. So those are the guys who we're talking about. Those 5, right?
Yep.
Whoever is the guy in terms of like Thibs saying, this is the one who I trust guarding the other team's best player. That's the one who's going to play in those closing moments the most, I think. We kind of saw that sort of mentality seep into how they operate during the Miami series, right? Because Thibs trusted Josh Hart on Jimmy Butler more than he trusted Quentin Grimes on Jimmy Butler. And that even led to Thibs having Hart become the starter for the beginning of that series until eventually he deviated from it. And then Grimes ended up playing like 48 minutes in game 5 of that series. However, if Grimes shows up this year and he's really good guarding point guards and he's really good guarding twos, and they've put him on big wings, like he was guarding Pascal Siakam in moments last year, and they have him guarding wings and they're comfortable in that, Grimes has a chance to be the one who closes the most often. And he has a leg up on any of those other guys, which is that I think of the crew, he's the best shooter of the ones who you would think about guarding wings. That I'm specifically referring to RJ, DiVincenzo, and Hart. DiVincenzo can shoot too, but he's had down shooting seasons as well. I think Grimes is probably the better catch and shoot guy. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with him.
I'm fascinated by it. The 2 numbers I'm looking at here, I thought you were going in a different direction before in terms of where the shots are going to come from. Grimes took 10 field goal attempts per 10.2 per 36 minutes. And and 7 of which were threes. So obviously massively high percentage of threes. I don't expect the percentage of his total shot diet to be threes to change. I'm sure it's going to be somewhere around 60, 70, 75%. And then there's RJ Barrett, 17.1 shots per 36 minutes. That's where I thought you were going. Is it maybe some of RJ's shots, assuming they continue to share the starting lineup, which we have no reason to believe that they won't. So
maybe it could. It could.
You sound like Thibs.
I sound like Thibs. That's
You're
true.
around the man too much.
That's true. I remember last year, Julius said something that was like an ultimate Thibsism, and one of us caught him. It was like, that's a Thibs phrase. He was like, oh man, it is a Thibs phrase. Like he seeps into all of our minds. Yeah. I will say on RJ, I think there's a world where RJ is the odd man out in crunch time a decent amount this year, depending on how he plays. He was the odd man out in crunch time a lot that last month of the regular season. And then he had a wonderful postseason run. He had a really, really good postseason run, and he didn't deserve to be the odd man out during the postseason. He was one of their best players during the postseason. He earned that spot back. 100%. But I don't think in year 5, with this team trying to win as much as possible, and with a coach who's a maniacally competitive dude and who loves Josh Hart and who loves Grimes, and who, as much as, people on the outside maybe criticize the way that he handled Quickley early, like Thibs is a big Quickley guy. Like he's really into Quickley. He thinks Quickley's a really good player. And so it's not like Thibs is secretly out on any of these other options. And if RJ shows up and he's shooting 31% and he's not necessarily shooting a high percentage around the rim and the offense is more clogged, and the defense is what it was during the regular season last year. Because one of the things that I think gets ignored somewhat is that while his offense was much better in the postseason, his defense was a lot better in the postseason. Like he did a good job on Darius Garland. It was way better. So if RJ looks more like regular season RJ last year, and now you've got these good options, DiVincenzo, good player, Hart, good player, and he's there for the whole year now. Quentin Grimes, good player. Like I could see RJ. I'm not predicting a benching of RJ, but I could see crunch times without RJ happening more than you think this year.
I want to ask. I'll just.
The minutes have got to go somewhere, man.
No, I know. They
didn't pay the MLE to Dante DiVincenzo for him to play 15 minutes.
No, they did not. And he's going to be good too. Like, I know you didn't mention like Thibs loves DiVincenzo, but Thibs loves those sorts of players who do the things that Dante DiVincenzo does. I don't know, man. I always wonder with RJ when he is going through times where he's struggling and the team, I don't know if you want to say to their credit, but I'm going to say to their credit, they have never really wavered. They have always given him the time. They have always given him the shots. They've never taken him out of the starting lineup. I wonder what, if again, I see people are going to see Macri hates RJ. I don't even want to put this out there because you put it out there. So I'll blame you. You put it out there. Like
who said Macri hates RJ?
Oh, Jesus Christ. If other players are playing well,
I don't know what's going on with this. Are we live? Are we live right now?
We're absolutely live right now.
Oh man.
And RJ is struggling. How much do you think the behind the scenes conversations will focus on things other than what is going on the court? Like, do you think they still, because at one point he was obviously the crown jewel of the organization, and has that changed? Does that matter? Like, I don't even know what question to ask because all of this is very unclear to me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. At some point, where you drafted a guy has to stop mattering. And I'm not saying
Detroit. Let's talk about the Pistons.
And I'm not saying that RJ is going to be like on the outs with the Knicks. That's not what I'm saying. But he's on a second contract now. And I'm not even saying that there's no possibility of development. Like he's 23. He's very young. He's young. Like he is young. Like Stephen Bondi, because he looks like he's just like being next to him today and talking to him for a little bit, he looks like he's in really good shape. He looks like very cut right now, I would say, and not like bulky, like cut. And Bondy noticed it. Bondy of the Post now. We have a new BOTP.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even have to change the acronym. That's great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Bondy said that's all people have said to him since he moved over to the Post. But Bondy noticed it, and he was going to ask him about it. And he kind of started the question by saying, like, RJ, you're in your prime now. And RJ interrupted him. I was like, I'm not in my prime. I'm 23. It's like, I'm young. I'm 23. Bondy was like, yeah, I guess so. You've just been around forever. So everyone kind of forgets it. And RJ's right. He's 23. Guys get better at 23. Actually, Bondy's response was, I don't know, 23 was my physical peak, and then it was all downhill, which was a phenomenal response. But I think there is room for RJ to grow, and we shouldn't be assuming that this just is who he is all the way.
I'm not, and you're not either.
However, no, I'm not. However, if he shows up the same player that he was last year, they have a lot of good players. Like, this is a good problem to have.
It's a great problem to have.
This is a good problem. Knicks have a lot of good basketball players. Like, their ninth best player is good. Whoever you think their ninth best player is.
Yeah.
Whoever you think it is, their ninth best player is good.
Their 10th best player is pretty good.
Yeah. Every single player in their rotation is good.
Yeah.
And so that's a good problem to have. But what's going to happen is you're going to look at some stuff, and then you're going to see, holy crap, this guy played 14 minutes, but it's, there are only so many to go around.
What it's going to do. Yeah. What it's going to do. And I don't know if they care about this stuff. Well, two things. One thing it's going to do is if the homegrown players, so RJ, Quickley, Grimes, if those guys see the short end of the minutes thing and they are not winning, somewhat consistently, or if, God forbid they go on a 3-game losing streak or something, and Immanuel Quickley averages 23 minutes. I'm just picking a name out of a hat, 23 minutes a game during that time. Like, fans are going to be all over Thibs, obviously, which has been a consistent theme. I don't think they care about. Do you think they care about that? I don't think they care what the chatter is, but what I do think they care about is internally in the locker room. If they're like guys, and I think you could say this of every NBA team, right? Guys will buy in if it leads to winning, right? If the sacrifice is not leading to winning, then all of a sudden you get big problems. Totally.
Look, let's just do the quick math right now, right? You get 240 minutes to go around, 48 at each position. You're going to get 48 minutes of centers at center. So swipe that away. Let's say you get 36 from Randall.
I've done this math so many times. I think you get to 124 or 125 or 126. One of those numbers.
I was going to say 36 for Randall and 36 for Brunson.
I'll confirm that.
You're down to 120 minutes for 5 players, which is 24 minutes a game on average for 5 players.
24. There you go.
If RJ is going to play 35 minutes like a starter, if he's going to play the 35 minutes that he averages, now you're down to 85 minutes for Grimes, for DiVincenzo, for Quickley, for who's the last guy? And Josh Hart. Like,
who by the way, averaged how many minutes after he came here last year?
A million.
31? 32?
Fine. So now we'll say Josh Hart gets his 31. Now we're down to 54 for 3 dudes. That's 18 minutes a game. Quickley is second and 6th man of the year. You're not going to play him 30 minutes? Okay, great. Now you got 24 minutes left for 2 players. And now, okay, Grimes averaged 29.9 last year. So we're going to get another 30. All right, we're down to -6 minutes. Oh, and they gave $10 million to Dante DiVincenzo, and they're not going to play him 12 minutes a game, and they're certainly not going to play him -6 minutes a game because that's not possible. He's going to be going back in time. So let's say DiVincenzo plays 22 or 20, let's even say 24. And now you're at -30 minutes. Like, you got to find 30 minutes. So now you got to chop off 30 minutes of this thing. So you take 10 off of RJ and you take 5 off of Grimes and you take 5 off of Hart. And, now it's like, you're still not even there. Like, you still got to be chopping into stuff.
What I'm curious. So two things. One, this is why I started off the offseason by not predicting, but like saying I thought pretty clearly that they would make a 2-for-1 trade. I didn't think there was any, because again, especially considering DiVincenzo was going to be signed the whole while we knew he was going to be signed, was always going to lead to this. Now that hasn't happened, that I'm assuming this is the roster that's going to go into the season. Now that hasn't happened, I wonder if they're going to do something that I don't think they've ever really done under Thibs, which is like, if a guy's like a little nicked up, are they more inclined to sit guys? And I don't know. I don't know if you have an opinion on that.
I don't know the answer. I don't know. I would assume no, because
I would assume no too.
That's just not how they operate.
No,
but I haven't specifically asked anybody that question, so I couldn't tell you with 100% certainty.
Okay.
But based on the way they generally operate, based on the personalities of their players, personalities of Randall and Barrett and Brunson, those guys hate rest days. They hate them. And Thibs hates them. And it's just like...
Oh, does he? I didn't know. Really?
If everyone involved hates them, and these guys generally stay healthy, like Thibs always says, you prepare your body to play the amount that you want it to play. So like Julius last summer goes into last summer and transforms his body, right? Just spends all summer working on not necessarily being even just in better shape, but being in different shape. Like, he was focusing on stamina, right? That was a huge thing for him. And it's not a coincidence that the dude played 77 consecutive games to start the year after that. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen every single time, but he prepared his body to play the amount that he wanted it to play, which was the whole damn season. And the only thing that kept him out was a freak injury of him rolling his ankle, right? Which could happen to anybody at any time. So those guys take that specific kind of approach. It's not a coincidence that the Knicks think that way and they go after players and keep players and hold on to players who think that way too. And it's not a coincidence that when they bring in players who in their formative years, rubs off on those players. So I think Dante DiVincenzo seems to be like that in terms of his personality, though I don't know him. I think Josh Hart is like that. Brunson's like that. Like, I think it's hard to tell players they're not going to play when they're healthy, even when your organization is all in on that strategy. and when your organization is like, kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, we should maybe do it. Get somebody else some playing time. I don't know. I just think I would guess no.
That would be my guess as well. I want to finish up just by touching on it quickly, because I feel like you've been just all over every aspect of Immanuel Quickley in terms of his situation on the Knicks. Lately, over the summer, you've talked a lot about the contract. I think you've pretty consistently said, correct me if I'm wrong, you've pretty consistently said you do think an extension will get done before the season. Is that right? I
don't know if I'd phrase it that way. I would say that I think there's a better than 50% chance that an extension gets done.
All right. So quickly, we should mention you're someone you've been on a guest on his pod several times. Zach Lowe had Quick in his 5 most intriguing players list today, which is, I think, an honor. Although Obi was on it last season. I don't know how that worked out for Obi. I am also intrigued by Quickley. My guess all along has been 4 years, 90 plus incentives. If you had to, again, offer your opinion, this is Fred Katz's opinion. At this point, we are now how many days away from the first preseason game? 5. Okay. 3-part question. Do you think he gets done before the season? If so, do you care to wager a guess as to when before the season it gets done? And then what do you think it'll be for?
I would say more likely than not, it gets done.
Okay.
I would say if it gets done right up against the deadline.
Oh, okay. This is interesting.
And just when in doubt in the NBA, just guess it happens right before the deadline. It's crazy. Like the NBA is just filled to the brim with procrastinators. Like I spoke to somebody in Portland, all right, after the Dame trade. And I'm asking like how quickly this come together. They're like really quickly. Like it really came together. We had not spoken on Milwaukee and it came together real quick. And I was like, so why didn't you guys do this like 2 months ago? He's like, well, training camp's coming up, in a couple of days. I was like, so you couldn't have just done this like 2 months ago? He's like, deadlines, man. Nobody wants to do anything until the deadline. And then the deadline comes and it's like, okay, I guess we got to do something now. Like, that's why people are like, how come trades only happen right before the trade deadline? How come trades so rarely happen in December and January? And it's like, well, because they're just filled with procrastinators. And that's why. And it's because when your teacher says the paper is due on Friday, no one turns it in Wednesday. And if you do turn it in Wednesday, you know what happens? Everybody hates you for being this way. So you just turn it in Friday. And that is what the NBA is like. So when in doubt, guess it happens like right up against the deadline. I think the deadline for him to sign his extension is October 23rd.
The day before the regular season starts.
Yeah, it's the day before the regular season starts. So I think it's October 23rd. So I'm gonna guess it happens on like the 21st or 22nd or 23rd.
Which is not, by the way, for anybody who may not pay attention to this stuff, that's kind of the norm-ish, right? For non-max.
Yeah, like a Devin Vassell situation where Devin Vassell just extended a couple of days ago, and he's in the same position as Quickley. That's actually kind of rare. Like normally you see extensions maybe get done in July, and then there's just like a break in August and September, and then stuff resumes in October, and then maybe you get something done. There are a bunch of guys who, signed their extensions on October 20 something. It happens last year. I think Brandon Clark, his extension must have gotten in 16 seconds before the deadline. Like it just happens all the time. And Brandon Clark got a very friendly 4-year, $50-something million deal. Like it's not like, oh, okay, you just take some, like you still get paid your market value a lot of those times. So that's why I said in the most recent Quickley extension story that I wrote, like I said, like there's nothing to be concerned about. If you want the Knicks to extend Quickley, there's nothing to be concerned about with the timing on this right now. It's just, sometimes this is just how it goes. Okay. 3-part question that I'm now answering. Look, you ask a long question. It's going to be a long answer. Part 3 is what's the number?
Yeah. Years, number, whatever you want to throw.
4 for 90 is good. That's a good number. I'm going to deviate from you.
Okay.
I'm going to say 5 for 105.
Huh. No options?
I mean, if Quickley's getting 5 years, then he's not getting a player option if he gets 5 years. 5 for 105. 5 for 105. Yeah, no options, because I don't think Quickley would want a team option that last year. Because if he can become like an awesome max guy or even just better than that, and there's a much higher cap, he'd want to get out. I'm going 5-105.
I hope it comes. I hope that's what it is. That would make me really happy.
There are new extension rules now.
As we saw with Devin Vassell, you don't have to get a max to do the 5th year.
Exactly. You can give anybody a 5th year on a rookie scale extension now. It didn't used to be that. It had to be a max. And I don't know why the Knicks wouldn't want to lock up Quickley. For 5 years.
I think they would. My 4-year prediction, the biggest question that I have in my mind is whether he would push for a 4th year player option in that scenario. I just Quickley feels to me like a bet on myself type of guy. And he also feels like, he's said on the record he wants to start eventually. So if he thinks of himself as a guy who's going to start, whether it's in New York or somewhere else, eventually, I would imagine he thinks he's going to do pretty well as an NBA starter. And you go look at what your average NBA starting point guard makes, and it's probably the max or something close to the max, because like most of these guys are max-ish guys. I don't know.
That's very possible. That's very possible. What the reason I said sometimes, man, players are just like, oh my goodness, a $100 million contract.
The one
you got to the Magic. Wait, it's not an 8-figure contract.
It's a 9-figure contract.
And I genuinely believe, I really do. I know these players are competitive as hell, and they are confident as hell, and they are ambitious, and in a lot of ways, you and I can't relate to the way they think because they are so unbelievably competitive, because you have to be that level of competitive and confident in order to get to where they've gotten. And I recognize that. And they also have usually fantastic business people who are running their business side of things. And a 5-year contract would mean Quickley becomes a free agent at what, 29? And maybe he would want to hit free
going into his 9th year.
That.
So he could get a 9th year or the 9+ year max.
Yeah.
Which I don't know thinking about that, but.
And so I understand all of that. I really do. I also think that the money in the NBA is so ridiculous now that players are just going to look like, sometimes I think we do a bad job as NBA media, as NBA fans,
and you've said
everybody else, separating what is a good business decision within the NBA economy and what is a good business decision in the real life economy. Yeah, $105 million contract in the NBA is not what it used to be, but a $105 million contract in real life is still really freaking good. So sometimes you might just want to say, screw it. $105 million? Give me $105 million. My goodness. That's setting my family up for me and my family up for generations. I'll never have to do anything ever again.
It depends how your spending habits are, but yes.
And the reason I said 105 is because Julius Randle without his incentives was 106 and RJ without his incentives was 107. So I thought 105 sounded like a good number to get spicy.
And Jalen Brunson 104, I believe.
104. Oh, right. So maybe Quickley would be 10. You know what? 103. Well, I guess Brunson was 4 years. So 105.
Yeah, but so were RJ and Randall. So I know that.
But I like 104, 105. I feel like we're going for a straight, you know, you got 104, 105, 106 and 107. So I'm going 5 for 105. I think that's kind of like a missing piece right there. You get that up and then somebody can have a breakout year and the Knicks can give them 108 or 103 next year. And they're good.
I don't know what the number is going to be. And as you say, we shouldn't assume that it is going to be signed, but I do know if it's not signed, it makes trading Immanuel Quickley next summer a little bit more complicated, which is so something else maybe we should be keeping in the back of our minds.
Yep, for sure. And for what it's worth, you know, one of the things that happens with the extension is when you sign the extension, it's just really complicated for really nerdy salary CBA reasons. It's really complicated to trade him this season because the extension doesn't kick in until next season. So for the 23-24 season, it'll be difficult to extend him it'll be difficult to trade him. However, I think the Knicks is organizationally they've been waiting on that star. I think they think it's more likely that a big name is coming up next summer than like at this trade deadline. And so you extend Quickley now, you get him as one of those larger, but not max, still like mid-range, not mid-level, but mid-range salary in that Fournier camp, in that RJ camp. And you could put him and RJ together and right there, like you're there. So I think that's something to consider as well.
Whoever could you be talking about as a tweet just came up on my thing here, updated odds on where James Harden begins the season. Clippers minus 180. His current team, 76ers plus 140. So there we go. Fred Katz, I have to go eat dinner. You are a magical human being. And I am glad you're getting to have fun in Charleston, South Carolina. Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Absolutely nothing. I can't believe that Andrew didn't make me change my name. I can't believe that Andrew didn't comment on the fact that we have these supers on the video. I can't believe Andrew didn't comment on the fact that I started the show with my name being John Halama's Mama's Pajamas, and changed it midway through to Wilmer Valderrama's Mama's Pajamas. And I can't believe Andrew hasn't commented on that. I'm just shocked that he hasn't gone out of his way to ruin all the fun in this podcast. So thank you.
Not all, just some. When I eventually redirected the plane, but Andrew likes fun. I'm the one who hates fun.
I do like fun.
I also like it when you guys talk about the Knicks. This was good.
Thanks so much, Fred. It's been a pleasure.
That Isaiah Stewart extension, huh? Speaking of extensions.
Everybody go subscribe to The Athletic. I'm sure they're having some kind of deal right now. They always are.
We're the Joseph A. Bank of subscription journalism. So come on down. Buy one suit, get the whole subscription free.
And Fred Katz is as good a suit as they have in their closet. But yes, you get all the other suits as well as Fred Katz when you buy the subscription to The Athletic. Many
yes, you do.
Sign all the way off.
Thanks everybody for tuning into another episode.
I love
every time.
John, how would this podcast exist without Andrew?
It would just be
what would happen?
It'd be fine.
Thank you, everybody. Shut up. Thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. We'll be back with more fun and games very soon. Peace out.